Hey guys, in this video, we're talking about the products and tools you need to detail an entire vehicle if it is a maintenance detail, and I'm highlighting how few products and tools it really takes to be able to fully detail a Lexus like this, or any maintenance client's car for that matter. But before I get into that, make sure that you guys go below in the YouTube description box and grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500, because the truth is, while I'm going to talk all about different tools and products in this video, if you don't have this top 10 list before you ever get started, failure is probably imminent. And so I want to help you guys shorten your learning curve and learn what the right tools and products are before you ever get into the game. So go below and grab that guide from the YouTube description box. Again, it's totally free. So just to set up some context here, guys, I'm at my maintenance client's house. This is where I normally service all of my maintenance clients' vehicles. And this is a Lexus from a maintenance client of mine that's been on my maintenance list for the past couple months. And the really cool thing about this particular client is that he actually called me and brought up the maintenance client question and conversation before I ever said anything. So I didn't even have to sell him on the maintenance client idea. He knew he already wanted it. But without going too far down that road, let's just talk about what I'm doing as I work inside the car before I get to the exterior. And yes, I'm going interior and exterior on this car and in this video. You guys saw I started with the door panels, and then I'm moving inside from the dashboard to the steering wheel and working my way down the steering wheel column, as well as all those little intricacies of the area that follows this part of the car. And then I'm just going to be moving inside, back, and around the car as I continue. One of the things that you might note is that while I'm using my Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner diluted about 10 to 15 to 1, I'm using very little of it, and I'm not really spraying it directly on any surface, and it's going to be really, really rare that I actually do spray that particular product onto a surface. I'm spraying it rather on my brush, or more often on my microfiber towel, and using my brushes just to dust those little cracks and crevices as I use the cleaner on top of those surfaces. The beautiful thing about a maintenance client like this is that, number one, this is not his daily driver, and in many ways, the majority of my maintenance client vehicles make up non-daily driver cars. It makes my life really, really easy. But secondly, it's extremely easy to detail, and really what I want to highlight is the few tools and products that it actually takes to detail a car like this. And the main thing you're going to see me using here is the Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner, my brushes, and my microfiber towels. One of the things that really is awesome about this is the fact that literally anyone can afford to get into the game with this type of approach. So let's just put some real numbers to it really quickly as we're talking here. The brushes cost, let's say $29.99, $30. Let's say the Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner cost me $20. That's about where it sits for the gallon size. And then let's say I bought a pack of 30 interior microfiber towels for $26, $26.99. So we're looking at $60, $86. So around $86 to $90 maybe pre-tax to actually buy the stuff that is really all I need in order to approach the interior of this vehicle. So one of the things I love so much about the auto detailing business is that it's so easy to get into. There's such a low barrier of entry, and it's so easy to make your money back even in one single detail. So just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what I charge for a job like this particular job cost $150 from my client. He's on a 3-month, a 90-day maintenance client schedule. That means every single year, let's say $150, $300, $450, so $600. This particular client every single year pays me $600 total to address the interior of his vehicle. And guys, this is really the proper way to think about the detailing business when you're taking what I call the maintenance client detailing approach. It's really good to look at it as a sort of quarterly, bi-yearly, or annual basis sort of thing. What I consider this, I would call it something like deposits in your future bank account. Yes, I make $150 per detail from this particular client, and so of course, this particular day, I bring home $150 in about an hour and a half from this Lexus, this client. But what's even more powerful than that is the fact that over time, this becomes a recurring revenue stream on an annual annual basis that gets kind of compounded over time. And the reason why I say it compounds is because what you'll find in the maintenance client world is that one thing begins to lead to another, and probably more specifically, one client begins to lead to another. For example, this particular client who's, again, on a maintenance client schedule, he said to me as I was walking out, hey, what's it going to take to get my other daily driver car on the same maintenance schedule? And this ends up happening as with connections as well. They introduce you to their friends, all those sort of things. But without going too deep into that rabbit hole, really my point is the most healthy, probably the most growth mindset way to look at the maintenance client approach is that what you're doing is developing recurring revenue that is going to be deposited in the future into your future bank account. And if you can put numbers like that onto clients, you're going to be able to kind of see why scaling in a sort of exponential way is really easy when you take this particular approach. Now, to be specific about my products and tools here, the two brushes that I'm using here, number one, the white one you see sitting on that passenger side seat, that's the one that I'm going to get wet. I'm going to use it to agitate certain things in certain places. And then the thinner black one there with the black bristles, it doesn't have quite as many bristles. It's a bit smaller. It's easy to use that to dust areas that are hard to reach. And in many ways, what you're doing with a maintenance client vehicle is dusting and wiping with your microfiber towel, because it takes such little chemical that really you're just trying to get things out of those most detailed areas. The only other brush I have there is the toothbrush, detailing brush, just in case I need to scrub anything in particular. I always keep that with me. And then of course I carry my steamer with me no matter where I am, though you're going to see how rarely I actually use it in this video. Like I said, I'm going to move to the back door, move inward, and do the same thing as I move around the vehicle. So outside of that, we're going to come back in when I start the door jambs. Now, as I start the door jambs, this is going to be a little bit of a different approach than you might be used to. I also think this is a fantastic tip for any of you guys who are pursuing this maintenance client strategy and building your business this way. One of the things that you really have to be careful of in the detailing world is not to do things that create more work for yourself, because it's really easy to watch social media and see how other guys are doing things and think, okay, this is the only way this has to be done. It's the way it needs to be done. And if I do it any other way, then I'm not a real detailer. I'm just a hack who's going to fail miserably, blah, 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 blah. None of that is true, and you really need to be careful doing things the way everybody else does it just because you see them doing it. So you can see here, I'm not pulling out my hose. I'm not drenching anything in water. In fact, the only thing I am doing is spraying my Meguiar's APC diluted 10 or 15 to 1. The reason why I keep repeating that ratio is because it's a very, very heavily diluted form of the product. And so my point is it takes very little chemical to agitate any of this grease off of the door jamb. And then in some cases, I'm not even using any product. I'm just using the steamer. And basically the steamer is nothing more than my rinsing aid as I move around the vehicle. And so as I do each door jamb down what I would call the bottom of the door, the frame of the door, I'm also going to do the tops as well to make sure I get in between those rubber gaskets around the frame that covers the window or kind of squares up around the window, as well as the frame around the body of the car itself in that upper region. So you want to make sure that you get the entire door jamb here, but this is a fantastic way to address door jambs when you don't want to pull out a hose, get really, really watery, rinse everything down. And again, create a lot of work for yourself, because in this case, I would want to make sure that I was rinsing everything off and then drying it, because water spots would form if I didn't. But once again, I'm using distilled water in my steamer, so even if I didn't dry it, I really would not have to worry about water spots. At least I wouldn't have to worry about water spots that wouldn't come off with just simply a damp microfiber towel, because there's no minerals in that water. So any spots that do form can literally be wiped up with like no effort whatsoever. Now, some of you might be thinking, Luke, wait a second, there's supposed to be grease on the hinges of the door jambs in there, and you're ruining it and you're melting all the grease off with the steamer. You are a hack. Why would you be such a psychopath? I would never let you touch my car. And yes, I have gotten comments like that before, so let me address that, please. No, the steamer is not going to melt off all the grease on the car to where it's no longer going to work long term. And long term, the door is going to fall off on the interstate. You're going to kill somebody and then go to jail for the rest of your life, 25 to life. It's not going to happen. I promise. You can sleep easy tonight knowing that that will not happen. In fact, the steamer does not put out near enough water in order to melt all that grease off as quickly as I'm going around here. It would take me quite a bit of time to actually melt the grease off and push it down the door jamb. So that is not something that I'm actually worried about. And if you're using the steamer and holding it at any sort of distance, say like 6 to 8 inches, you are not going to have to worry about that, because it's not going to be even hot enough to do that. You'd be surprised how quickly the steam actually cools down, even holding it back from whatever surface you're working on, say 6 to 8 inches. The only place where I may want to use a hose is on the trunk here, but even then I'm not doing it. But the trunk does tend to get a little bit dirtier no matter what vehicle you're dealing with. But because this maintenance client car is so clean, it is not dirty at all. So the steamer is more than enough as a rinse aid. So we're going to come back in when we move to the next part of the detail. right, guys, now we're moving to my most favorite part of this detail because it's one of my favorite things to talk about when it comes to maintenance clients. What you're going to see here is that, yes, I am vacuuming the seats and the carpets, but I want you guys to really take note of how quickly I am vacuuming. In fact, I'm not vacuuming even because I necessarily have to. I am doing it because there is so little dirt and dust in this car that even one single speck is something that you can see when you're looking at that black carpet. So I go ahead and take my vacuum out because I am literally perfecting the interior here. Now you'll notice for these back seats here, I did not use any carpet shampoo. I know what some of you are thinking because you've bought into the detailing dogma that says you have to do certain things every single time, and you're like, we're going to burn you at the stake, Luke, because this is violating everything we know about detailing. But that's actually the point, and that is what I want to bring you guys into, this world of maintenance detailing. I am not going to carpet shampoo the back carpets here, and I'm not going to take out the floor mats because they are literally in perfect condition, and there is nobody and no kids and nothing that actually even gets put in this back seat. So all I am doing is actually vacuuming and then spraying a fabric protection on the main part of the removable floor mat so that it stays in perfect condition with that protective barrier on it. This is an experimental carpet or fabric protection. Generally speaking, I use a product from G-Technic called their Smart Fabric, which I will hook up in the YouTube description box below, as with all of the tools and products that I used for this maintenance client. So this is an experimental product that is not yet on the market. That's part of the job I get to do. It's fun. I get to test products, and I get to work with companies that are putting out products. And so this is just a test. And so this is a perfect client to test this on, simply because I see this car on a regular basis, and we'll see his other car on a regular basis as well coming soon here. So the point is, I'm going to wipe off any of the excess from that fabric protectant or fabric spray off those plastic pieces. But with these three parts of the carpets, the back left, back right, and the passenger side, you see I'm not actually going to be using any chemicals. Now, it will change when I come to the driver's side, but for now, this is as easy as it gets. So you guys can see what I'm talking about when I start talking about that exponential decrease in the amount of time that I spend detailing a maintenance client's car, because it just takes no time at all. So when I hit the driver's side, I am going to be vacuuming it. I do pull the floor mat out because, of course, as with any vehicle, no matter what it is or whose it is, the driver's side is always going to be the most dirty of any part of the car, because if the car is ever driven, it is always going to be filled by the driver. And so the most dirt you're going to find, especially on the carpet, is going to be that area. And then I'm just going to use my steamer to blow out certain parts of the carpet, to blow up a few crumbs and vacuum that up, and use basically barely any chemical at all. The steamer is really just helping me get into the difficult to reach areas here. And then I'm going to be using my steamer drill brush chemical on the floor mat, as you will see as well, before we move to the windows. Now, as I move to the windows, I am using this particular tool that you may or may not have seen in other videos that I've posted here. It is a reaching tool. It's basically just the little arm that makes it way easier to deal with the interior of the windshield, as well as the back window, the rear window, because it is difficult to kind of reach your hand all up in the inner part of the windshield. If you've ever, detailed and done interior windows, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but especially when it's really hot outside in the summertime and you're sweating, I don't want to get my arms or get my body in the areas of the car that I just cleaned, and I always leave windows for last for obvious reasons. So I just use my waffle weave towel, I put it on that arm tool, and I go ahead and address all the interior windows. And I'm going to use that 50/50 isopropyl alcohol and distilled water solution to do that. Finally, after I get done with the windows, you guys are going to see I'm just going to protect that floor mat on the driver's side before I move to the exterior. Now moving to the exterior of the vehicle, I am going to be dealing with the tires, wheel wells, and wheels first, as I do with any vehicle, no matter if it's a maintenance client or not. The beautiful thing about this is you guys are going to see that the protection that is on this car from the last time I saw it, which was about 3 months, 90 days ago, is still there. One of the big differences between maintenance clients and your regular clientele, or let's just say cars that are taken care of, is that many times vehicles that are on a maintenance plan or taken care of on a regular basis are put under a garage, they're put under some sort of covering. And while this car sits under a carport, it does make all the difference in the world. Now, it doesn't take very long to get finished with the wheels, tires, and wheel wells of this car. I'm going to be using Super Clean with a foam trigger, as well as my Meguiar's wheel brightener for the face of the wheels and the interior of the wheels as well. But moving on from the wheels, tires, and wheel wells, I'm going to address this in probably what I think is the most simplistic way possible. And that is just your regular foam cannon and then agitation wash after that. Now, the beautiful thing about a foam cannon in this particular situation, because in some ways, a foam cannon can add a lot more work to your life or in your detailing business than it can maybe execution or effectiveness to your business as you're trying to see a lot of different cars. You'll see that in many ways, a foam cannon is something that you always see on social media, but it doesn't always make perfect sense in the real world. Now, I use a foam cannon a lot simply because the cars I'm dealing with, like this one, is a maintenance client, and therefore a foam cannon actually makes my life very easy because the protection is still on the car from last time, and there is very little dirt on it as it is, or as it stands in general. And so the foam does actually remove a significant enough portion of the dirt before I start washing and agitating the car physically to really make it worth my time. And that's where I'll say, of course, always use a foam cannon. It just makes too much sense not to. But after that, I am going to be doing just a regular agitation wash before we move to doing other things. Now, it is important to understand many guys really tend to freak out about the amount of abrasions or micro scratches that they're putting into the paint. Once again, a lot of this comes down to the type of detailing business you're running, the type of clientele you're seeing, and really what's important to understand in the detailing world, especially for those of you who are starting in the detailing business, don't get too put off or hesitant by stuff like worrying about that kind of stuff just because it's not going to really help you long term. There's no way to touch the paint in any real way without introducing some sort of micro abrasions into the paint. But the truth of the matter is, while yes, you can minimize those things, and certainly it is your responsibility at some level to minimize those things, and of course take it on a case-by-case basis, at the same time, the customer generally does not care about that kind of stuff. This is what I would call your detailer's ego that's got to stay in check, because the detailer's ego can get you into a lot of trouble worrying about things that even customers really don't worry about. Now we're going to move on to the agitation wash, and I am using the same soap in the foam cannon and the agitation wash, the Sudstorm soap, which has kind of become my default soap from Renegade. It's part of their new detailers line. It's just super versatile, and as a mobile detailer, I really appreciate versatility. But you guys can see how few products, even on the exterior, that I'm using as well. My foam cannon, my buckets, my soap, my wash mitt, and my pressure washer. Outside of that, a couple specific chemicals, maybe for the wheels, maybe for the tires, maybe for the bugs, but outside of that, again, it takes very, very little time, very, very little effort, and very, very little tools and products to get this done. So as you guys watch the rest of the agitation wash, I will bring you guys back in after we are done here. Now, one area here where I do have to address that is kind of outside of the, what would I call a more regular, more simplistic approach to maintenance detailing is, of course, the bugs. Any car that's driven on any regular basis whatsoever, the bugs really do need to be addressed in an isolated instance, just because it's going to be easier for you that way if you address them kind of in isolation rather than trying to address them while you're washing, because bugs can be very difficult. So the simple way that I do this is I'm actually using a product from Jaxwax called Bug Zapper. It's just kind of on my shelf. I've been experimenting with it, and I like it a lot. It's really great, really safe, but really effective at removing those bug guts, which can be very difficult, as you may know, especially if they've been on the paint for an extended period of time. And so, again, I'm just using Bug Zapper, my detailing brush, to agitate it. Then I'm going to wash that off and move to drying and sealing the paint. Now, before I actually seal the paint, I'm going to dry off the tires because I do want to dress them with my aerosol can dressing before I move on to the paint, just because when I'm dressing tires with an aerosol can dressing, it's easiest to dress them before, just in case any overspray gets on the paint. That'll come off with the sealant that I'm using. I believe I'm using the ceramic spray from Turtle Wax. And yes, I'm using the same towel to dry off the tires, the sidewall of the tires, as well as the wheels. And some of you might be thinking, hey, you're going to be scratching it, you know, all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, because these tires are number one, new, number two, taken care of, number three, driven only once or twice a week, and number four, we're just totally clean, and number five, I can use a different side of my microfiber to take care of each of these. I'm not pulling out two different microfibers to do that because this is a fairly dirty job when you're dealing with that part of the car, and so I'd rather get grease on one towel and keep my greasy towels together rather than do that a bunch with both of them. So I am going to be using my aerosol can Stoner More Shine Tire Shine, not only for the wheel wells, but also for the sidewalls. And then we're going to move on to waxing the paint with the ceramic spray from Turtle Wax. Once again, my customer actually prefers that product, and so that is what I always implement here. Going to be using, I believe, Meguiar Synthetic Express Spray Wax on the exterior windows as well. And then we will take a final look at the vehicle. Now guys, as we're finishing up the vehicle, remember before you go to go down below in the YouTube description box and grab my free guide to starting your auto detailing business for under $500 to get all the right tools and products. Don't waste your time, energy, frustration, and money doing the trial and error thing that I was forced to do years ago, wasting my money on tools and products that did not work when I can give them to you literally for free. And of course, guys, remember, if you are new to the Wilson Auto Detailing channel and like this content, then make sure to smash that red subscribe button. And of course, tap the bell icon so that you get notified when I publish future videos and you can get more content just like this. Like I said, in the YouTube description box below the free guide will be all of the tools and products that I used in this specific detail if you want to get your hands on any of those. And as always, if you like this type of business content, tools and products content, and just in detail auto detailing business stuff, go ahead and smash the like button so that I know I love getting your feedback. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I will see you guys in the next video.